Alright guys, hi, I went and finally saw The Dark Knight Rises. Well, actually I'm finally reviewing The Dark Knight Rises. I saw it opening opening day. I went to Benji's Drive-In in Baltimore City, and I gotta say, it actually surprised me. I was very iffy about this film going into it, mainly because of how high the bar The Dark Knight pushed the Nolan franchise. And I was kind of iffy on the film originally. But then I saw the opening trailers for it. And I also learned that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I consider to be a fantastic actor, and Tom Hardy would be in the film. Now, before I saw that, I had seen the film Warrior, with Tom Hardy and Nick Nolte, and Tom Hardy blew me away in that film, and that was one of the main reasons, because I wanted to see how he would play Bane. But as for the film going in, I watched it. I was thoroughly entertained by it. I had a few discrepancies with it, and we'll get to that now. The first thing that really kind of put me off was actually the opening scene. The way that the scene was paced and shot, I was a little off-put by it because it seemed very cramped, very forced quickly. I mean, there's a lot of scenes that are quick in the movie, but this one seemed unnecessarily fast. And things were going so fast that things that were set up for the later parts of the movie, I didn't get right away. I realized that, especially when it comes down to Nolan films like The Dark Knight and Inception and whatnot, you have to watch the film several times, or at least twice, to begin to really, dissect it. Not just in ways of actually the technical aspects of the film itself, everything that was put into it. But two things that are my main issues with The Dark Knight Rises. One, the ending. It's not a huge qualm, but it is one. And, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. The way that at the very end of the film, and the way that the last ending montage is revealed after Alfred has his heartfelt speech on the Wayne Manor grounds, I actually thought that it kind of unraveled from the reality from the stark reality that Nolan was trying to make in his franchise. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say anything against that. That was his choice. I just think that in terms of trying to keep everything together with a specific theme, it kind of deteriorated my believability. Next was that Bane was not in the movie enough for me. And also, he didn't have enough screen time for me. Well, that's basically the same thing. But he didn't have enough screen time for me. And that's just my personal opinion. As for the film itself, as the way that it worked, it actually did work relatively well for how much Bane was in it and how much he talked. But I guess me personally, I believe that there should have been more of him in it. The twists for the entire movie were actually pretty good. They caught me off guard. And the first twist with Bane and his connection to Ra's al Ghul. I remember a couple of my friends said that they were kind of angry if that was the way that they were going to take it. And actually, to me, I thought it worked fine. And I actually thought it worked well with the character and established a deeper subtext to why Bane was doing what he was doing, and then it twisted it again, and then finally everything really did make sense, the way that it was kind of all situated out, and all the pieces were put together. And you can also tell that even though the film itself takes place 8 years after The Dark Knight, You could tell that they wanted to make sure that there was pieces from the past put into this movie. Now, I really think that in the time that Bane takes over Gotham and separates it from everybody else, and everybody kind of runs wild, that 3-month period, they really could have done a lot more. They really could have done a whole lot more when it came down to what life was like. And also, more than just the fact that, Christian Bale was trying to get out of the prison and try to return to Gotham. They could have done a lot more with that. But then again, at the same time, I'm kind of pushing it. I'm pushing it a little bit more because of how long the movie is anyway. The movie itself runs about 2 hours and 44 minutes, I believe, roughly. And it's a long movie. And I have no problems with long movies. I sat through Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago back-to-back one night, and that's an 8-hour sit. So I'm not, and also I've seen The Cure for Insomnia, which is an 84-hour movie. I am not, opposed to long films at all. However, this film I thought could actually have been longer. I think if they have stretched it into 3 hours, and they really expanded on a lot of the information that they really just alluded to in certain parts, instead of actually really fully delving into the life in these characters during this time period, I think that would have been more of a well-rounded piece. A well-rounded character study of all the main characters in the film. As far as actors go, the actors I thought were fantastic. I thought a lot of them were fantastic choices. My main qualm has always been with Christian Bale. I think Christian Bale is a great actor. I think he does a really good job. And as a matter of fact, I actually think he plays Bruce Wayne very well. But as everyone says, I got a problem with the way he plays Batman. And it's also, one of the major reasons is because of his voice. I have no idea why they decided to make his voice like that. They made it so raspy. They could have done anything else with it to make it work. I do love the jokes, the in-jokes they have with this film. They also have a joke that about Batman disappearing on people. When he finally meets Selina Kyle, I actually thought that was a really clever way of kind of turning back on the character of basically the entire impression that Batman has on people. Anne Hathaway as Selina Kyle as Catwoman. I originally was very skeptical about this because I don't dislike Anne Hathaway's acting, but then again, at the same time, I guess it's because I also haven't seen enough of her to really make a solid assessment on her acting ability in this type of a role. But then again, at the same time, they did the same thing for Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger blew everyone away with the Joker. No one, including me, no one was expecting him to, one, act that way, and two, be so goddamn convincing. But Anne Hathaway, she surprised me. She really did own that character, and I actually thought she gave 110% when it came to that role. Was it as groundbreaking as Heath Ledger's Joker? No. That was probably the best performance out of all of the movies besides Scarecrow. And Scarecrow, funny enough, I can never remember the actor's name for the life of me. I know a lot of people are who are into these movies, can't believe that I can't remember this, but at the same time, he's in this movie. He's in every single one of them. And I find that to be so unbelievably funny. And it's kind of like a wink to the audience, and it really does elaborate. One, not only is this universe inclusive, two, Nolan knows what he's doing, and he wants to use reoccurring characters in certain roles that befit the characters from the original series, from the original comics. A lot of people are griping about how a lot of the details were changed from the from the original comics about Bane and about where he came from and Selina Kyle and whatnot. And to be honest, I really have no sympathy for these people. Because the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to a film, it's an adaptation. It is adapted from an original work. So it's made into something else that was based on this sole idea. If you look back at Jackie Brown from Quentin Tarantino, that was based off of a book called Rum Punch, which, the main character was male, he was white, and also it was not at all the alluding to the blaxploitation and also these types of films from the drive-in era that Jackie Brown became, especially, and no one ever really rose up a huge fuss about that. So I really don't think that that people really should be, really griping a huge amount about this, because it's not trying to be faithful to the books. It's trying to give a new era, a new type of air to the story that started with Batman Begins. That's one of the reasons why people like the Dark Knight series so much, is because it gives a realistic, psychological, gritty tone to the Batman universe. If you want a gritty tone for the original Batman series, A, read the comic books, or B, see the Batman animated series from the 90s. Those are probably the best things you could do when it comes down to relaying Batman in its gritty form. Sure, there's a lot more cartoonishness, but hey, it's a comic, and hey, it's an animated series. This one is trying to play for more realism. That's why he didn't include characters like the Penguin and whatnot. And that's another thing. Even Selina Kyle is never called Catwoman in this entire movie. And for that I'm grateful, but also at the same time they allude to the fact that, A, she is Catwoman because she has this really cool set of visor, these set of goggles that she uses to break into safes and whatnot, and when she's not using them, she tilts them up and they basically become the cat ears on her outfit. And I thought that was a really, really nice creative costuming choice. And we get to the writing. The writing, I actually thought was pretty decent. Especially Bane's lines. I mean, mainly because I was kind of just... Everything about Tom Hardy's performance in this movie really did, I think, Bane the justice that it the character deserved, including the scene in which he fights Batman for the first time. It's well written, it's well shot, it's well edited together. A lot of people's criticisms with the Batman films is that Christopher Nolan does not know how to direct action sequences very well. Some of the detractors of The Dark Knight, and especially Batman Begins, said that the action sequences in the films were boring and they were poorly shot. I can't agree. I think Christopher Nolan's cinematography, and also his cinematographer, I believe his name is Marty Pfister. I'm not sure exactly. I have to get confirmation on that, but I believe his name is Marty Pfister. He's a fantastic cinematographer. And him and Nolan work fabulously together, and I think that the portrait that they paint with this type of movie, the cinematic style of this film, is very Christopher Nolan. You could see throughout all of his work this same type of style, but at the same time, it just has this air of real authenticity about it. And being on top of this air of authenticity, it goes down to the central point of the movie where Bane removes, and this is another spoiler, Bane removes the core from the reactor and makes basically a nuclear bomb. That goes a little ridiculous, to be honest. I mean, you suspend your disbelief when you're watching the movie, but then this really, if you look at it, it kind of elevates in extreme amounts. In the first movie, it was about silencing the Mafia and Scarecrow basically, just spreading this air of fear and whatnot, fear and control. And that really worked for that film. When The Dark Knight came out, it was the whole thing was the Joker spreading complete chaos and just destruction to the system. And that really was a really good playable idea. And not only was it well executed, but also it was believable. This one got a little too close to the superhero aspect of the comic books to a point at where it lost a bit of its realism. I'm not saying that it wasn't a fitting, it wasn't explained realistically. It definitely was. But at the same time, you go from the Mafia to the Joker causing anarchy to an atomic bomb. That is a pretty big leap between movies. However, that being the case, summing up basically about everything about this film in the last few words of this, is that it's better, I believe. It's better executed and better thought out than Batman Begins. However, I do not think it did match up to The Dark Knight. I did not think it encompassed, the psychological aspects that The Dark Knight really tortured through with its cast and whatnot. The way that it set up everything with Harvey Dent and also the parallels between, the paradox between Batman and the Joker, his opposite, and everyone knows that. Everyone knows the Joker is the chief antagonist of Batman. They had one up on the villains and whatnot. So it's better than Batman Begins in terms of this series. It's better than Batman Begins. It's not as quite as succinct or as monumental as The Dark Knight, but I consider it a very solid closing to the series. I consider it a very good conclusion to what the Nolan Dark Knight universe was. And I'm so thankful that Nolan is not going to be doing another film. Now, the way that he ended it, it could lead to another film. But it's like, this is the end of this story arc, and this is the beginning of the next one. But this next story arc is not going to be investigated by, anybody a part of this universe. And I will say that if people decide to reboot the Nolan franchise, or at least continue with the Nolan franchise without Nolan or anybody else with it, it won't be good. I know that for a fact. Not only for the fact because Nolan is not a part of it, and also he and his brother Chris are not writing the script, and also his wife is not producing. This creative team is not together. But also, many of the chief actors, including Morgan Freeman, Gary Oldman, Christian Bale, and whatnot, like, a lot of these actors said they will not return to the movies unless Nolan is a part of it. And I'm actually very thankful for that, because there doesn't need to be an oversaturation of Batman. We have had a grand total of 7 Batman films, live-action Batman films. Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns, Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and then the Dark Knight trilogy. Now, if they eventually do reboot Batman, which I really hope they won't, because I think there has been so much done with Batman, you can't really do much more with it. Especially in the ways of the animated series and the way that they went forward with, like, Batman Beyond and all that kind of stuff. They try to explore as many routes and possible story arcs with these characters as humanly possible. I mean, there's only so much you can do, with the story. So I really hope, against hope, that there won't be any more Batman movies. Obviously, I can't really, say that this is going to be a certainty. But I really hope that there won't be any more Batman movies. And I'm actually looking forward to what Christopher Nolan is going to be doing next, because this, was the conclusion of that. And my favorite film by Christopher Nolan, and I believe also his best film, is Inception. I also believe it's one of the best sci-fi films ever made. But, or at least that I've seen. But I really hope that Christopher Nolan will, really continue to astonish us, because I believe that all of his films have been fantastic. He, in my mind, is like Stanley Kubrick or David Fincher or Martin Scorsese. You like all of his films. There are just some movies that you like more than others. And this one definitely is one of his more succinct films. Though, as an overall piece, it's not his strongest, but nowhere near his weakest. And if you wanted to name something off the top of my head that I think that was his weakest film, I think possibly his weakest film was Insomnia. And that's even hard to say because that film was pretty well put together. But yeah, as a conclusion, I believe that this film is a fitting end to the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. And also, the way that it was set up, the way that it was executed, and the way it was finished off, I think it perfectly concludes things. There could have been other choices that I would have done, or that I would have inputted, that I think that he should have stuck with a darker ending, a more somber ending, rather than the ending that he chose. But at the same time, I can see why people, with the same thing with Inception, there was a line in it that people react better to a good ending than to a poor ending. People long more for catharsis. And I'm not always a believer that that is true, but in superhero movies, I definitely think it could, or at least in this one, I definitely think that could also stand for the case. But one of the reasons why the Dark Knight movies are, they're so good is because they're made for adults. They're Batman movies finally made for a primarily adult crowd. And that's why I think what makes them work. But, in final, go see The Dark Knight Rises if you haven't so far. And if you got spoilers from this, which I don't think I gave really that much away. If you got spoilers from this, I'm sorry, but I warned you. But if you want to see the entire movie, go through it. Great actors in it. Marion Cotillard is also fantastic in this movie as well. Basically, everyone does a really good job, and all the characters are written to the way that the characters are designed. Selina Kyle acts like Selina Kyle in this movie. Her character isn't changed from the way that it was originally from its original inception. Pun. From its original inception to now, it didn't change. The attitude's still there. So go watch The Dark Knight Rises. Let me know what you think. And I really do think that this is a really decent movie. It's probably also one of the better films that I have seen this year. Hopefully, in the next couple months, I'll be able to watch David Cronenberg's Cosmopolis, and also Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. I wasn't able to get a chance to see Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom. That unfortunately left the theater before I got around to seeing it. But hopefully I'll have more reviews up pretty soon, and also I'll get my Cinema Historia review up in the next few days, hopefully. It's just been taking me a long time to edit it. So thanks, guys.